You believe things right now that are completely wrong. And the scary part is, you have no idea which ones. That was the problem René Descartes sat with for years. Not a small, personal problem, an enormous one. Because if you don't know which of your beliefs are false, then everything you think you know is sitting on uncertain ground. Your opinions, your identity, your understanding of the world. All of it could be built on a foundation that's cracked straight through. Most people respond to that idea by getting uncomfortable and changing the subject. He responded by doing something almost nobody had the nerve to do. He decided to doubt everything, literally everything, until he found something that couldn't be doubted. And what he found changed the direction of Western philosophy for centuries. Back in 17th century Europe, knowledge was not something you figured out for yourself. The church told you what was true. Ancient texts told you what was true. Your parents and teachers and community told you what was true. You inherited your beliefs the way you inherited your name. Questioning them wasn't intellectual curiosity. It was potentially dangerous. People had strong reasons to keep their heads down and accept what they were told, and most people did. They built entire lives on beliefs they had never once examined. Sound familiar? So what did Descartes actually see that made him go in the opposite direction? He was a mathematician, and in mathematics, something is either proven or it isn't. There's no probably, or the church says so. 2 + 2 = 4 in France, in China in 1642, and right now. He looked at that certainty and asked a simple, devastating question. Why can't I have that same certainty about everything else I believe? That question would not leave him alone. He rented a quiet room, sat by a fire, and decided he was going to tear down everything he thought he knew, piece by piece, and only rebuild what could actually hold weight. He started with the senses. We trust our senses constantly. Your eyes tell you something is blue. You believe it's blue. Your ears tell you it's quiet. You believe it's quiet. But he remembered every dream he had ever had. In those dreams, he was completely convinced he was awake. The things he saw felt real. The sensations felt real. He had no idea he was asleep until he woke up. So how does he know, right now, that he isn't dreaming? How do you know? Sit with that for a second. He couldn't find a satisfying answer. So the senses went. Unreliable. Can't be fully trusted. Then he went further. What if there was a powerful, deceptive force, something like an evil genius, that was feeding him false information about everything? What if every memory, every perception, every mathematical equation he thought he understood was being manipulated? It sounds extreme, but the point wasn't that he believed this was happening. The point was that he couldn't prove it wasn't. And if he couldn't prove it wasn't, then it wasn't solid ground to stand on. One by one, everything fell. The physical world, gone. Other people, gone. His own body, gone. History, gone. Science, gone. He kept going until he had almost nothing left, and then he hit something. The very act of doubting requires a doubter. To think, something must be doing the thinking. Even if an evil genius was deceiving him about everything, that genius still needed a him to deceive. The deception itself proved his existence. I think, therefore I am. For words. May be the most important for words in the history of Western philosophy. Not because they're complicated, because they're the one thing that cannot be taken away. You can doubt the world. You can doubt your senses. You can doubt other people and history and science. But you cannot doubt that you are doubting. The act of questioning proves the questioner exists. He had found solid ground, and from that one unshakable point, he started rebuilding knowledge. Carefully, only including what could genuinely be verified. Now, here's where it stops being a philosophy lecture and starts being something that actually matters for you. Think about what you believe right now, not the big dramatic things, the quiet, everyday ones, the belief that you're bad at a certain kind of work, the belief that you know what other people think of you, the belief that your memory of a conflict is the accurate one, the belief that the world works a certain way because it's always worked that way for you. Where did those beliefs come from? Did you examine them, test them, verify them? Or did you just absorb them from your environment, the way Descartes absorbed his beliefs from a world that never encouraged him to question anything? Most of us are carrying around beliefs that are years, sometimes decades old. Beliefs formed when we were kids, or teenagers, or in the middle of a bad relationship, or in a job that made us feel small. We formed them under stress, or under the influence of people who were also confused. And we never went back to check if they still hold. That belief that you're not creative, where did it come from? Probably one teacher in one class on one day who didn't respond the way you hoped. That's the foundation. One data point. And you've been building on it ever since. Descartes would call that a cracked wall, structurally unsound. Not because you're stupid for believing it, but because you never applied pressure to it. You never sat with it and asked whether it could survive real scrutiny. His method wasn't about being a pessimist or tearing everything down for sport. It was about being honest enough to admit that untested beliefs are not actually knowledge. They're just things you've accepted. And there's a difference. The practical version of this looks simpler than you'd expect. Pick one belief you hold about yourself. Just one. Something you say internally without thinking about it. Like, I am not good with money, or I am someone who gives up when things get hard, or nobody really listens to me. Now, do what Descartes did. Apply pressure. Ask where that belief came from. Ask if you can actually verify it, or if you're just repeating something you were told, or something you concluded from one or two painful moments. Ask what evidence would change your mind. If you can't think of any evidence that would change your mind, that's a sign you're holding the belief on faith, not on reason. You might find the belief survives. That's fine. Some things hold up under scrutiny. That's what makes them solid. But a lot of things won't survive. And when they don't, you'll feel it. There is a specific relief that comes from letting go of something you've been defending without knowing why. Descartes didn't just do this once in a quiet room and then move on. He built an entire way of thinking around it. Start from what you actually know. Be honest about what you don't. Don't dress up uncertainty as confidence. Hold your beliefs loosely enough that new evidence can actually reach you. That last part is the one most people skip. We say we're open-minded, but watch what happens when someone challenges something you're certain about. The defensiveness that shows up isn't logic. It's protection. You're protecting a belief you've never actually tested. He left a room in 17th century France with almost nothing and built back something real. You don't have to go that far, but the principle stays the same. Uncertainty isn't the enemy of knowledge. Untested certainty is. The beliefs you refuse to examine are the ones running your life without your permission. That's what he saw by the fire that night. And somehow, 300 years later, most of us still haven't tried it. Subscribe if this made you think. The next one goes somewhere even more uncomfortable.